Start recording anytime you get ready. So I am Amy Floyd. I'm the Director of Data and District Support for the Educator Effectiveness Team. I think most of you have been on before. Um, we have a new, I don't know if we've had a meeting since this has come into effect, but we have a new state policy against the use of AI tools. So if at any time, if we see any of those in the meeting, we will remove them. So we ask that you please not use those. This is our team. Everybody's still working here, but the only ones of us here today are myself and Candace Robinson, who Candace is our team contractor. And she is working to learn all things educator effectiveness. Today, we're going to talk about things that need to be done in T Encompass. We're going to talk about partial year exemptions, the 24-25 growth and achievement measure selections, and LEA contacts. So partial year exemptions, we do this about this time every year. Educators who are employed for contracts under 120 days per school year, or they're not employed full time, should be marked PYE in T Encompass. Anybody else that you would otherwise expect to receive an evaluation score or an LOE may be eligible to receive PYE if they've been on an extended leave and are not providing 120 days of instruction to students, if they've transferred to a different school during the year or to your school during the year and they're not going to provide 120 days, or if they've transferred to another role. So if you have a teacher that has become an assistant principal, they need to be marked PYE because now you would be observing them using an assistant principal or a principal's rubric as opposed to a teacher rubric. They must be marked in T Encompass, the state evaluation system. And if they receive a PYE, they will not receive an LOE for that year. There are two ways to identify teachers as PYE in T Encompass. The first one is to set it from the educator's record. That's the easiest. The easiest way to do that. The other way, if you have a lot, you can use the import wizard, but unless you have a whole lot of them, it's a whole lot easier to do it from each teacher's individual record. And the way you do it from the record is you simply go to that educator's record. There is a box at the top in the evaluation box that says set PYE. You simply click that. It will open up a window that has a drop-down menu. You choose one of these reasons, or if it says other, I believe it'll let you type a little something in there. You just select the reason and click save. And when you go back to that educator's records, you'll see the banner at the top, kind of in yellow, that says that this evaluation has been closed as part of a partial year exemption. It's also in the box and at the very last thing that says, yes, contract duration of 120 days or less. So it gives you that they were marked PYE and why there.
Hey, Amy, a quick
Yes,
question.
sure.
If I do have a teacher who has moved to an assistant principal, so what should be my correct answer? I don't think should I use contract less than 120?
I'm
Or
transferred to a different role.
oh, look, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Okay,
You're
thank you.
good. Now, I transferred to a different role during the school year. And
Okay,
you can still, if you choose to, I mean, I would recommend you do an evaluation on that person as a principal or assistant principal. You just
okay,
won't put it in T income. It's just for feedback purposes for
got you.
that person because next year they'll receive the full evaluation.
Okay,
All right. Um, so you need to review your 24-25 growth and achievement measure selections. We're going to start talking about growth measure selections first. So the easiest way to do this is to go to your reports, download the growth and achievement selections report, make sure you're in the current school year. Your charter location should pop up there. The educator type, you can download this for teachers and for principals or administrators. And then I always do an Excel format. Downloads a spreadsheet. It's a pretty wide spreadsheet. Columns A through M have a lot of identifying information about who the teacher is and where they teach and a lot of information there, the TLN and stuff. So you want to look at columns N through W. If they are PYE, they do not need measure selections in T Encompass. Don't worry about them. But you can see that this fourth educator does not have a growth measure score. They don't have a growth measure T Encompass ID in column O. They don't have a measure name in P, nor do they have a category in Q. Oh, that's achievement. Excuse me. Jumped too far ahead. So make sure that anybody that has blanks in these first two, you need to upload a score for them. Every teacher in your charter should have a growth measure selection. For most educators, this will be a school level TVOS composite. A custom feeder option is available for teachers in schools who don't generate their own growth scores. However, most charters don't have, unless you're in a larger charter, a custom feeder would be like for a K2 school, but within that same charter, there must be like a 3-5 school that would generate TVOS. And if you have that happen, then the K2 school can use a custom feeder option, and that feeder option would come from the 3-5 school. But there are a few charters that are just K2. They do not generate scores, and most of their teachers do not generate LOEs. That's the only time a custom feeder option should be used. If your school generates a TVOS composite, then they must use their own schools. They can't use another school's. Measure selections should align as closely as possible to what the teacher teaches. So if you have a 5th grade ELA teacher, they could use the school-wide literacy composite. They could also use the school-wide composite, which encompasses all tests given in your school. There are resources on the team website here. There is a growth measure selection guidance worksheet that gives you this basic information about the types of growth measures. So we have individual TVAS scores, we have individual student growth portfolio scores, and we have individual universal reading screener scores. Those are individual scores. So even if you expect your teachers to have one of those scores, they must have a school level or district level or custom feeder district or school level composite in T Encompass. So even if you're expecting your Algebra 1 teacher to get an individual growth score, they still need a school-wide composite listed. This worksheet or this resource also has multiple pages after this that contain tables. These tables will show you and tell you what a district and school-wide composite, overall school-wide composite score has in it, what tests are used in it. So for example, a school-wide composite score, just the school-wide composite, overall composite, would have scores from every TCAP test that is given in your building. So if you are a K-12 building and you give the 3rd grade assessment, it would have scores from grades 3 through 8, all subjects that are tested, and it would have all of the ELCs that are tested. If you are a 3-8 school and you use a school-wide composite, it would only have tests from grades 3 through 8 in all subjects that are given. So it says school-wide composite. It gives all the possible tests that are listed for each of those. It goes through EOCs. There are a bunch of those tables. So that if you have trouble figuring out what composite you want, I recommend you looking at this resource. Achievement measures. So, yes, ma'am.
Hate to interrupt you, but it looked like Renee had a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't see.
Yeah.
Which one, Renee? Let me back up.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Sometimes my speaker's not working. So I had a question about, well, 2 questions. Kind of back to PYE for a second.
Okay.
If you had a staff teacher quit or a teacher terminated, and they're no longer at our school, are we supposed to be pulling them out of T Encompass?
Not for this year.
Or we leave them on their staffing.
You leave them on their staffing, but mark them PYE.
Okay. And so
And
we
going
leave them on there till how long? Like till
to the end of the year. When rollover, we roll over each year to a new year. We roll over all your staffing. At the beginning of next year, you would remove them if they're not working with you.
Okay, so now if say they go to another school in the county,
Okay.
Are they still able to pull them in, or how does that?
So
work on
wherever they go, when they leave your school, if they are hired in Memphis Shelby County will staff them. They should mark them PYE also for this year because we're about halfway through. They'd be PYE for both schools.
Okay, because we're in Hamilton County, and so
Okay, I'm sorry, you're in Hamilton.
if they leave us and they go to a district Hamilton County school, that same rule still applies. They will pull them.
Yeah, they just staff them. They'll still be staffed for you and marked PYE, and then they will staff them. And if it's happening right now, they should mark them PYE also. If a teacher leaves about Christmas, they're not going to make the 120 days for either semester. So you would leave them staffed, and then Hamilton County would staff them in whatever school they go to, and probably mark them PYE. But what they do with them doesn't affect what you do with them. So you just leave them there, and then next year, when we roll over to the 25-26 school year, you would remove them when you're updating your staffing at the beginning of the year because they are not working with you for the 25-26 school year.
Okay, and do we also leave them in T-eval on the evaluation system as well, or does it matter?
I'm not familiar with. I mean, I know what you're talking about. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would ask. The only person I know in Hamilton County is Christy Easterly, who's their evaluation person. I'm not sure how that platform works.
I got you. And
my guess is you might be able to mark them PYE somewhere in that platform, but I don't know that for sure.
I'll check it out. And then this relates to the December 1 report because I'm taking over some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so is there still time to do that? Because I'm working on it.
If you have not done it, I believe you can still put it in. We do not handle that part of it, but I believe that we can still put that in, that you can still put that information in if you have not. If it's not locked in T and Compass, go on and put it in.
Okay. That was all. Sorry about that.
You're good. Okay, so let's, do you have any more questions before I move on? You good? Okay. So achievement measure selections. Every educator must have this achievement measure selection in T and Compass. They're grouped into state assessments, off the shelf, TFOS composites, graduation rate, ACT, SAT, early post-secondary exams, and industry certifications. Industry certifications are for CTE programs. So if your organization does not have a CTE program, then you won't use industry certifications for anything. The measure should align as closely as possible to what the teacher teaches. That's difficult for some areas. There are teachers that feel like they're not things that align very closely to them. Achievement measure criteria should be set when the selections are made. So on the team website, on the achievement measure page, there are several resources for that. There is also a resource I don't have highlighted here, which is the growth and achievement measure import instructions. So after this, and you're trying to do this, you can go back there and find the instructions to do this. There is a worksheet. Again, I think I showed you that earlier. There is a worksheet. You are not required to use this worksheet. It is just a resource that we have put out for schools to use. We did add the growth measure on the top of this just so you would have everybody's information in one spot. The district has the final say for that growth measure. Most people give teachers a choice. You don't have to. You can just pick it and say that's what they're going to use. The achievement measure, the teacher has more say in that, but you set the criteria for that. You can use this if you want to. You do not have to. Best practices would be have a building level administrator keep a copy of the achievement measure worksheet or their selections. You all may have ways set up in your organizations to keep those. If not, you're welcome to use this achievement measure worksheet. Be sure you list the specifics of the measures. Is it 3.8 EL8? Have I already gone through this? I feel like I have. Selection is TCAP 3.8 ELA success rate. Be specific about the grade level of the measure. Is the success rate at the school, the grade, or the classroom level? So for Ames Web, be real specific about how you'll measure this. What score are you going to use? So is it the percentage of students who are scoring at a certain percent? Is it the percentage of students who are projected to score at a certain level? Which test is this going to pull from? Is you're pulling it from the first time the test is administered, the second, or the final time? Just be very specific. I personally would never remember at the end of the year if I just marked Ames Web and said a measure, from 0 to 25 is a 1, 26 to 49 is a 2, 50 to 60 is, I would never remember what I was talking about. So I would need to make notes so I would know what it was talking about. And make sure that the score that you're picking can be calculated easily, that it's easy to find on reports that you have from these assessments. If not, make notes, put the formula on the worksheet or wherever you're keeping track of this, just to make it easier for yourself. I've been in a district before, and I had principals who at the end of the year would say, oh, this is what we had, this is what we chose, but how do we calculate that? And I'm like, well, I don't know what you talked about at the time. So just try to keep as much information as you can on that, so that it makes it easier for your staff when this happens. I also suggest, I know at the end of the year it's busy. I suggest doing this at the end of the year when all of this data is readily available and everybody's looking at it. If you wait till the next fall to do it, you may or may not be able to find this information easily. It could have gotten filed somewhere that you might not be able to find again. Entering the growth and achievement measure in T Encompass. So after you have filled out you're going to go back, you're going to use this growth and achievement measures again. You go to the import wizard 2425, click continue. Your charter will pop up. Again, you click generate template. So we've already talked about how to do the growth measure. The same thing happens for the achievement measures. You're going to click on all available measures. You're going to select the evaluation component. You're going to filter it to achievement measure. Then I suggest you filter column C to the type. So we're going to use Ames Web. So we're going to select off the shelf. So all I would see when I filter that is what's in this red box. There's a ton of other things that we can scroll and see. Since we're choosing Ames Web, it's at the educator level. So you would copy the category off the shelf, the T Encompass ID, and Ames Web. Those 3 columns, C, D, and E. And go back to your worksheet, paste that, and then you are done. You want to be sure you save your worksheet. You've got we already did, you do the growth measure the same way. Filter the growth measure category to growth measures. Do smallest to largest. The overall school-wide composite will be the very first one if you filter smallest to largest. And it will, it'll filter that one to the top. CTE concentrators are going to show up next. Do not use a CTE concentrator unless you have a CTE program in your school. When you copy those back here, then you have your school-wide, your achievement measure scores here. You have your growth measure score here. Save your spreadsheet. Go back to the administration tab and click on the import wizard. Click your growth and achievement data again and click continue. Make sure your school year is the same and continue. Then this time you click, I already have a template. and click continue. It will, after you click continue, it will validate, and then it will, if you don't have any errors, it will process it and upload those. So it's just a process. If you have errors, it'll show you what the errors are. You may be missing an ID or have an incorrect ID in there. The other things that we need for you to do is to update your contacts in T-Encompass. You do that by going to the administration tab again, select LEA settings and click on contacts. It will open up this and you'll be able to see your list of contacts. If you need to change any of those, change them, please. If an email is changed or something, please change them. If you have a different person in that role, if you click the little eraser, it will erase all three of the boxes there, so you can add the name, the email, and the phone number. Otherwise, if you just need to change an email for your superintendent designee, just erase that column and add the correct email in there. Be sure you click save at the end.
Amy, there's another
Yes, ma'am.
question. There's
Okay.
another question.
So thank you. Quick question. So for the achievement measure worksheet, so is there a way for us to confirm? I believe I said that in. Do you guys? Is there a way for you guys to check that to see?
There is. You can check it also if you will if you go back in and download. If you go to reports.
Okay.
And reports, you can download. It's a growth and achievement measure. I think it says growth and achievement measures. It may say selections. It'll download you a report and you can see those for each of your teachers. I'm pretty sure I checked yours and they were in.
Okay, it's all a fog, so I'm just making sure.
I can't. Yeah, I think I checked yours. It could have been somebody else if I look at a lot of them.
All right.
But yeah, that's the way to check it. You can go to those reports. Your next steps are to check to see if anybody needs to be PYE, review your 24-25 growth and achievement measure selections, upload any missing measures, and review your LEA contacts and update them as needed. And you can update those anytime. We just try to remind you periodically to update those. Resources here, achievement measure guidance. This will take you to the team website on the achievement measure tab where all of those are listed. Growth measure guidance does the same thing. This T-Encompass evaluation data management guide is handy. It tells you how to upload observations and scores and things like that. And then there's guidance on partial year exemptions here. These are our emails that we all answer. We answer team questions, on portfolio questions, and RV questions on our team. Roster verification will be opening in a couple of months. And so if you have questions about teachers rostering, please email that. These are other district support emails that districts can use for other departments. And that's it. Let me stop sharing this. Ms. Chantel, you have a question, I think?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Good morning, everyone. I actually have a couple questions. I hope that this is helping the group. But I have a question that's coming from one of my teachers about say, for the growth measure, if they choose the literacy and numeracy growth measure. The question that they are posing to me is which I sent this in yesterday, but I don't think I was clear, but I've came up with like an example so that hopefully you can help me out. So if our school literacy was a 1 and math was a 5, would her TVOS score be a 3 because it was average for literacy and numeracy?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Those are not averaged. It's not just a simple average to get those combined scores. SAS, who is the company that generates all these TVOS scores for us, and have been doing that since the early 90s, I believe. They actually recalculate that so that everything is weighted equally. It's not just an average. So you can't, if you've got a 5 for math and a 1 for literacy, that does not mean that they will have a 3. It's possible, but it's not a guarantee that that's what it will be. Because if you had a lot more math scores than you did ELA scores, math would be heavier weighted there.
Okay, so this is this I would have to go back to the TVOS website where they give the growth, they give a
Mhm.
lot of other data there.
That's right.
So but I do understand what you are saying. It's not just an average, but it is a weighted average, similar to our LOE score, where achievement has a percent, growth has a percent, and the observation has a weighted percent to get us the whole LOE number at the end of or in October of every school year.
Sort of. It's not
Okay.
like math is not weighted higher than literacy. It just has to, it's going to have to do with the number of assessments that have been given. And it, so if chances are you have the same number of ELA and math tests,
Yes,
but it's,
in that group I would.
it could be that a child misses a math test but takes the ELA test. There are lots of reasons why those scores might not be used. So it's not just, and it's all of them in the school. So if you're talking about a school-wide composite, it's all ELA and math tests in your school. So it's possible that the numbers are not the same. It's not just a simple average. They don't average composites together to get another composite.
Okay.
Does that make sense? It's a whole nother
Yeah.
it's a separate calculation. They start all over again with the calculation and put all the scores in. I could probably get a better answer
Okay.
from SAS, if you need
I
one.
don't because it's going to be too data thick for me. I already know, but I'm going to I'm going to work on it. I'm going to work on it. But my second question is, I have a PYE mistake for the 23-24 school year.
Okay.
Am I able? I know I would have to provide, what kind of documentation would I have to provide in order to make this correction?
You would just need something that shows why you're removing the PYE. I mean, and
No,
it could,
or adding it. I would
if
be
you're
adding
adding
it.
one, yeah, you can just, you'd have to upload, you're gonna have to do an administrative edit to do it. And you just have to upload a document that states, I would put it on letterhead or something that just said that this teacher should have been marked PYE because of this reason, whatever the reason
Okay.
is.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
use that as your document that you upload doing the administrative edit.
Okay. And then I apologize to everyone. I hope I'm not taking over. But my last question is there a March 31st deadline for the entry of this information for the growth and achievement measures?
Yes, ma'am. I would like for them to be in by March 31st, but if they are in on April the 1st, they will still accept them.
Okay, okay.
These need to be in before the end of the year.
Okay.
I think the deadline was, yeah, is it March 31st on the team timeline? I'll have to find my team timeline to see. But we do need these in as soon as possible. See it.
Yeah,
It's
yes,
laying
ma'am.
right here in front of me. Yes, March 31st. They need to be in.
Okay, yes, ma'am. We're
And
working on them.
um and put those scores in as they become available. So I don't know when your last if your teachers are using a universal reading screener, I don't know when your last administration is of that. May not be till May, but when you get those scores back, I highly recommend going on and putting those scores in so that you don't have to try to dig those back out at the beginning of next year.
Okay, yes, I do understand that too. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well,
That's right.
actually, Yeah, that was one other question in the chat, but I believe you answered it regarding deadlines. Does that
That's
answer
right.
your question, April?
It does, thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. If you can get those in by the 31st, that would be great. And don't forget to upload your observation scores at the end of the year. We'll meet again, and I'll tell you that again. But be sure your average observation scores get in at the end of the year. All right. Thank you all for coming. Please let us know if you have any questions. You can email team questions, me,
Thank you,
Candace,
guys.
anyone. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Y'all have a good afternoon.
You too.
Thanks, Christy.